Hey, and welcome to the speedrunning guide for the Past Within. This will go over the route used for the past as well as the future. There'll be time codes in the description for each of those, as well as just general tips and tricks for both of them, as well as overall movement, etc. So we will start with the thing that saves the most time, mostly on the future. It doesn't save any time on the past, but the device text in the future displays faster in Simplified Chinese, which is right here. So you generally want to run in that, as there's no requirement for it having to be in English. So with that, it might be a little bit hard to understand where things are, so we're going to go over a few of them first. So if you ever need to reset the run from the menu, it will always be the second last option here, and that will reset back to the menu. There we go. In-game, it will be the bottom option. So we'll switch to Simplified Chinese so you can see. So that'll be starting from the menu, and then in-game, it'll be the bottom option. As well as that, if you ever need to practice just a chapter and you want to skip the intro, you can do that by going to Get Help here in the Help section. Then there'll be a button here for Reset Chapter 1. If you are on Chapter 2, it'll say Reset Chapter 2. That'll just put you at the start of the chapter with all this stuff reset to that point. So it's easier to practice the second chapter that way. You don't have to replay the whole thing. In Chinese, again, that will be the same spot. It'll look like that. And that's how you reset it. If you reset it from the menu, it just goes back to the start, so it doesn't really matter there. So with that, we're going to start, and immediately there are 5 instruction screens to go past, but they are slow. You may not have noticed during a casual playthrough, but in the top left here, there's an itty-bitty tiny button to skip those 5 instructions. So you wanted to go through that, and then you can make your selections. So I recommend, first off, just so that all of the game is saved in your memory, like your RAM, to just go through and do a dry run of whatever you're doing. So if you want to do the future, just go through, just do it, get all of the second chapter in there, and then the ending credits. Because once they're in memory, it actually saves you about 2 seconds from loading times. And since this is timed in real time, that adds up. But yes, so we're going to start with the past here. So during this, you'd usually just spam click. There is a brief second between being able to click the buttons. And now that we're at the bee and butterfly choice, I'm going to go over the simple fact that you should never play butterfly. All of the puzzles combined, all of the extra time that butterfly adds is more than if you played with bee. So bee is faster always. So you should always play with bee. And there's no category for which insect. It's just a category for full game, past or future. So at this time, it's best to just play B. So we're going to go through here and enter the past. So right away, you can get about a 0.5 second time save by spamming click at the start. So this says click to continue in English. If you spam click while it's loading, it starts the fade out quicker. So it'll just immediately start to fade out rather than you having to wait for it to fully go bright and then click and then disappear. So it's best to spam click there. So now that we're on the first screen, what I usually do is there's about 2 seconds before you can actually interact with anything. And that goes for loading the game as well. So what I do is I just click back and forth on these buttons until one of them goes down. And once one of them goes down, I finish off the sequence and pick up the matches. You don't have to read that letter at all. Just grab the matches. And before we do anything else, I'm going to go over a little bit of move tech. So I'm sure you know that you can switch screens by clicking on the arrows, but in some circumstances, in any area that there isn't an interactable, like right here, if I click on the table, it's going to go into something, so that's interactable. I can't do it here, but yeah, see, I tried. But anywhere there's nothing interactive, like generally on the bottom here, up on the top right, you'll see that if you click and drag, it does a screen transition. So certain circumstances where you want to remain on the right side of the screen just for better mousing, like when you're using an item, for instance, you can just click and drag to screen transition. There are a few points where that is faster than having to drag your mouse over to the left or right. Also, I guess I should mention, I play in windowed mode, which shows a small version of it in the middle of my screen. I'm recording this in full screen, however, just so that it is proper fidelity, so it looks better. But in windowed mode, it's obviously quicker to move your mouse back and forth, so I find that that's easier for me. You might find it better to play in full screen. It's a preference thing. I'm just horrible at moving my mouse quickly and accurately, so I find it easier to do in windowed mode. So another thing that I've seen other runners do is anytime they're in a subscreen, they come down here slowly and click this little button here. Well, you don't have to do that. If you scroll the mouse wheel down, that will pull you out of any subscreen you were in. So if I'm, say, in 2 subscreens deep in Albert's Coffin here, scrolling down once will bring me back to the Coffin. Scrolling down again will pull me out fully. So that is definitely preferable, because obviously you can do that if you have to prime an item use or something. You can scroll down while you're moving over or moving the mouse to a different screen or a different button for transitioning purposes. So general movement tech aside, there are other things that will ultimately save time. So if you notice during a screen transition, like I'll spam click to show you, you have like half a second, maybe slightly less, in between when you can screen transition again. So during that time, if you say have to use an item 2 screens from now, you can screen transition, grab the item, and then go back to screen transitioning. Unless you're perfect, it's not saving all the time, but it saves some time because you're doing nothing else. So if you go and grab the item or select the item, you're saving at least that half second, right? So that's another thing you should always do is prime your items when you're screen transitioning. And then if you need to screen transition 2 screens, always do it on the right hand side. That way your mouse is here next to your items, because the vast majority of the time you're screen transitioning for a reason. You have to do it to grab an item, put an item into something, etc. So it's easiest to just keep your mouse on the right hand side to do that. So another thing, it doesn't affect the past right here, but I'll explain it here anyway. I'll probably explain it again during the future. If you have, or if you're playing in windowed, or if you just have an ultra-wide monitor, maybe not an ultra-wide, 2 monitors at the very least. The cube for this chapter 2 of the past and chapter 1 of the future, the cube can be rotated a lot quicker and around 180 degrees or so if you have that extra space to move your mouse, because you are not locked to the screen. So you can move your mouse off screen and it still registers that you're moving it off screen. So if you do have multiple monitors, keep that in mind. It's a lot easier to rotate 180 degrees with that. So I think that's all of the movement tech. I call it tech, but yeah. So we're going to go into the actual route. So in this is where you'd start. You do the cross. So for the B, it is an X. It's just, you saw me do it, I don't know, like 5 minutes ago. You want to zoom out here, and then we're going to go around and pick up all of our items. So we're going to start by moving 2 screens over here. We're going to grab our soup and immediately go to the coal box. So the pattern is 1, 2, 3, 1. So you want to go 1 on the right, 2 on the left here, 3 on the right, and then 1 on the left here. I'm bad at that. My mousing is terrible, but I can click fast enough to do 3, 3, 1, 1, which is the scroll combination, and this works for both B and butterfly. So I find that easier, but yeah, you can do 1 on the top left, going right, 2 on the top right, going left, 3 on the bottom left, going right, and then 1 going left. So what we want to do is grab the coal, and we're going to we're going to scroll out, remember, to get out of this. But while we're doing that, we want to grab the coal so it's primed. We want to move here and just spam click on top of the furnace here, and then that'll drop that in immediately. You can click and drag for these. I just find it easier to spam click. Like say I click and drag and I miss, that means I have to move my mouse all the way back over here and drag it again, right? So if you click to prime the item and then just click all the way over to where you gotta go, or generally where you're moving to, that is a good backup, a good safety strat. So that is generally what I do for most items. So yeah, we're going to light the coal, get our hot soup, zoom back out. I'm going to 2 screens to our right to set the clock to 1:15. This will then start the wind, the left one, which will trigger Albert to fall. You can prime yourself by just spam clicking the bottom right here to go into its screen. Move that over, grab our key, head 1 screen to the right here, and our drawer is the bottom one. So if you click anywhere on this, you're good. Just try to move your mouse up to meet it. I should have probably said while you're screen transitioning over here, screen transition, grab the key, click, etc. We're going to pull out our mask again, zoom out, and then while we're doing that, select our mask so that we're primed. We're going to go into with our mirror. We need to click on Rose's face, which is down here about, I believe. It's muscle memory at this point, I can't remember. Yeah, it is. So we want to click on the mirror. You could just click down here and it would probably work. Yeah. So just know that you want to click about here, and then when you're transitioning the mirror, just spam click around there. So now that we're set there, we want to transition over to our stained glass. So for whatever reason, the bottom right cube here does not zoom the screen in. So the glass can't be zoomed in here, but for some reason everywhere else can be clicked to zoom in. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's just, I guess, an oversight by the developers. So I usually click on the tree because that primes me to be near the tree. And our first pattern is tree cube mountain. Then we want butterfly knife. And then we want mountain butterfly cube knife. So while this is doing this, we'll do a very basic lesson, and that's always be doing something. So this takes time to unfurl itself and then open the doors before you can interact with anything here. So immediately after you get the final stained glass pattern, you want to pull out, and we're going to come over here and we're going to grab other items that we need around the area. So we grab the candle. We're going to come into Albert's coffin and we're going to do his letters. So you saw me there. I grabbed the altar key from underneath, or from above rather, the coffin lid. So you don't have to wait for the coffin lid either. You just spam click around where the altar key would be, and then once you get it, you can zoom out, and then we're going to go use the altar key, because by the time we do all that, this should be open. So for this, I click down here and then move up and click up where it is. If you just click where the button would be, you're going to end up in this screen. So click down here, move up to where the altar key would go, zoom out because that's doing something. We're going to grab our second candle. So we're going to be using them 2 screens to the right, but before that we're going to start the gem sequence, the soup sequence, whatever we want to call it, as well, while we're doing everything else. So we're going to screen transition, select our candle because we're going to be using that. And then we're going to do the crow painting. Once that's open, we then move over here and then do our candles. And once we do that, we can then prime our key, come over here, get our diary. So this would be where we continue the gem sequence. So we want to click ourselves in the mirror and then screen transition to again to go to the coal box and pull open for the spoon, and then back to screens again for the soup. So while you're doing those two screens, you can prep the soup, drop it in, use the spoon, grab the gem. We're going to, again, you can prep that while you're screen transitioning. And do gem, lever, grab these, and then go into the diary. So you need to grab that pencil before the diary will actually be put down. So grab the pencil. Well, I usually prime the diary and then grab the pencil and drop the diary. Okay, so at the diary, our order is bottom right, top right, bottom left, bottom right, top left, top right. It's once you get used to it, it's easy to do. It's just boom, 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 boom. But yeah, when you click on a thing, a square, you can't change the page until it's fully done its animation and audio. So that's, you know, you're given like a second and a half of just dead time. So a technique that you can use, but it just saves like maybe 3 seconds overall, is if you half fold a page, you can still interact with the buttons underneath, and it will not pause you to move that page, right? So, okay, well that was a bad thing. So if I drop it here, I can still interact with what's underneath it, and then interact with the one above, like after it drops. So I'm only waiting for half as many page flips. Done perfectly, this will save like 1.5 to 2 seconds maybe. So it is optimal, but it is hard to get your head around initially. So I generally haven't done that in a run yet. I just do one page at a time. But I'll show you that now. I'll try to show you that. So you want to drop it here, click, click, and then you want to, before we even do that, you want to flip the first page and then start flipping the second page. And then to do the next one, you flip and then start flipping the second page. So for this one over here, we want to grab the page about here, and that'll put our cursor over there. So we can then click, click. So flip page, and then again, grab over there, that'll put our cursor over there, and then click, click. But yes, without that, as I said, the pattern is bottom right, top right, and then bottom left to bottom right, top left, top right. But that's fast diary if you can do it. So we're going to get our scalpel. We are in a subscreen again, so remember, scroll down to get out of that. We want to go to screen transitions to our right. Again, select the scalpel because we're going to be using that first. While we're on our way to the coffin, we're going to do his ear first. If you spam click, you can skip that animation of the ear coming out. So if you just like click, 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 then you'll get the ear cut off and you'll grab it. Zoom out to our previous screen. We're going to click our cotton bud while we're doing that. Go into his nose. I think there's a certain number of times you have to jam it up. I do it 3. So 1, 2, 3. I'm not sure if it's like 2.5 or something. I've had it where you could just wiggle it back and forth sometimes. So we can't actually grab this blood until it's fully done its animation. So you're good to just blah 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 and then come over and grab the bottle. And usually by the time you grab the bottle and come back, you still have like a split second where you can't grab it. So just spam click. I'm going to go out and I'm going to do the mouth now. So what I do is you can immediately place the mouth opener before the screen fully transitions. So while you're zooming out the nose, you can grab the mouth opener and then just spam click. That time, That time it didn't work, but if you click on the lips properly, you can do it. And then we have our tooth sequence. So you want to start with this one, which I guess would be the top middle left tooth. I don't know. I just remember by the canines, and then this one. So you do this, then the left top canine, the right top canine, the little one beside the big tooth here, beside the canine. See, it's all just canine. So canine, canine, beside canine, and then this top right middle is your final tooth. So again, that's blink, 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 blink. So we want to zoom out 2 screens. While you're doing that, I usually grab the tooth, and I want to go over 2 screens to the altar. So this tiny box, the zoom in trigger for it is literally just the box. So if you click below it, you're going to end up in the altar. You have to click the box itself. So this is like the one time where you need to be super precise, and you can mess it up. I've done it before. So you want to drop it in the box. Again, you can drag it. I'm just so used to clicking and then clicking again. It's probably quicker to drag, I don't know. That'll give us our scroll here, which has our first coin. So when we click on the scroll, it's going to drop to the right of the box here and down. We can open it while it's falling. So if we click and just like spam click and move with it, you can open it before it hits the ground, which of course is quicker. See, there, I just did that. We don't need to move, or we don't need to unfurl it all the way. Just there is fine, just a small flick, and then we get our coin. I'll do 2 screen transitions back, so again, just scroll wheel. We need to come over here, we need to set the clock to whatever, 2:35. It's just a memory thing at this point. I don't actually memorize what the time is. I'm just like, oh yeah, swirl it once and drop it here. So 2:35 gets us bumping. We're going to immediately go over to the coffin to the left, and if you screen transition, just spam click around this area, you'll automatically drop the vase like that. So it'll just be ready to go. Click down here, move the bottom piece, grab the key, head back, etc. So our top drawer is where we want now. So you can click right about the lantern is where you want to move your mouse while you're doing that. So screen transition, move up. And there you go. There's your pieces. I'm going to do the chessboard, which is 2 screens away. So I prime the white piece, just to spam click it in, and the black piece in as well. So the way this chessboard works is you have to drop the piece for it to register. So you can move it wherever. You can move it to the end even. It's not going to do anything. So you have to move, drop, and then click again and move it again. So for the transition, I'm going to move, drop, move, drop, move, drop, move, drop. So that again is, we want E5, E1, I have to look at it because it's C3, and then C6 will be our full sequence. During this time, we're waiting for the little drawer to open. So I usually prime our first coin, and then we go on to spam click here. You can spam click anywhere around here. You're going to grab the coin as soon as it pops out. I'm going to go over to the coffin now. So for this, there is a quicker way to do it than to just put the coins on his eyes and wait. Because usually when you do that, you zoom out here and it takes like a good 2 or 3 seconds, and then his soul will crawl out, and then you have to click on his soul. Well, if you move to a subscreen, it's like we can still go to his mouth or his nose. So if we move to one of them and then place the coin on his eye as we're transitioning, the soul immediately starts to come out. So it's actually quicker by like 2 seconds or so. So ultimately here we want to click on his nose and then put it on his eye, and then immediately scroll out twice, and then his soul is ready. It's ready to go. Obviously you do that faster instead of just waiting like I did. So I'm going to click on his soul a couple times. Once it starts crawling, we don't have to wait for it or anything. Just once it starts crawling, I'm going to go over here and click on him on the pipe. I'm going to do 2 screens over. We need to click on him here. We need to make him talk there for him to disappear. And we need to then go left 1 screen to show this screen. We don't have to talk to him or anything. Just as long as you are at this screen, it counts as that part completed. And then we're going to head back to the clock to set it to 3:20. or you set it to 325 because you're an idiot. But yeah, I'm going to set it to 320, and then we have to head over here. And I'm going to explain the next part. The next trick we can do is dialogue skip. So during casual playthrough, you'd zoom into him, you'd click on to talk to him, he'd say his infamous catchphrases backwards. I don't remember what he says. And then he'll go through 3 dialogues and then form the cube in his hands, and you grab the cube. Well, we can just zoom out in the middle of his dialogue, and it counts the dialogue as having completed that specific dialogue. So we can skip it and then just zoom out and then back in 3 times. But that's just one layer of the dialogue skip. There is a faster dialogue skip, and that is if you click on him while your screen transitioning out, it starts the next dialogue. So it skips 2 dialogues at once. So during this specific dialogue, he only has 3, but during the future, Albert has, I think, 5 or 6. So if you get fast dialogue skip, then it's just you zoom in and out of him like 3 times and you're good instead of the full 6. So we're going to try to do fast dialogue skip. You'll know you'll get it because he'll start to say a separate, like it'll close the text box and then it'll open up another one. So we want to click to start his conversation. I usually click around here. It doesn't really matter where you click on him. And then zoom out and click again. There we go. See? So that's 2 dialogue boxes we skipped. So when we go back in to do it again, this will be his last dialogue. So when we go back in, it'll form the cube. So when you get the cube starting to form, it's no faster to zoom back out. You might have seen I think I zoom back out, but it's not faster to zoom back out. You can once the cube is starting to form. You can just sit there and just spam click it until you grab it. So you do a fast dialogue skip and then do a normal dialogue skip, and you should be good for this guy. So once we got our gold cube, we want to prime it as we go over here, drop it, and click and hold to go to chapter 2. So once you're clicking on the button, it doesn't matter where you move your mouse, just as long as you keep holding it down. So just like with chapter 1, if we spam click, the click to continue message will go by quicker. So I'm going to go over the move tech again, by the way, now that we're here with a cube. So if you have, as I explained, your mouse is not trapped. You can move it off screen. So if you have a second monitor, or maybe even an ultrawide, I don't have one of those, I only have 2 monitors, you can do cube rotations by just moving the mouse off screen. It's easy to do a 180 quickly if you memorize where you need to move and drop your mouse, or even a 270. I can do math. Even a 270. Say I want to go over to this screen. It might be quicker if you are used to like scrolling to your second monitor to just do that. If you know the position. Hell, I might even do 180, almost over 360. I mean. So if you know the position where to drop it, or say probably about here. Yeah, there we go. It might be quicker to do that. So this is one case where if you have a better setup, you will probably run this game faster, which sucks, but that's what it is. So that movement tech as well. We'll go over zooming out again, just in case you didn't watch the first chapter. So you don't have to click the down arrow in order to go backwards. You can just scroll down. But in some circumstances, the ability to scroll down actually doesn't work, and I don't know why. It's just like glitches in the game. So if those come up, I will mention it. I don't think there's any in chapter 2 of the past. Actually, no, I think we're good here, but yeah. I'm just mentioning it that sometimes you can't scroll out at all, like it's just broken. So let's move on to the route. Our first position is nothing else will happen until we hit Z1X23Y. So Z1X23Y. This is definitely a circumstance where playing in windowed mode is actually a lot easier because you can move your mouse so much better. I don't like moving it all the way across the screen because I'm so bad at mousing. We're actually going to explain something here. As you're zooming out, actually we'll do with something else. So some modules can be interacted with while you're zoomed in, and that's still the case. Sir, there we go. That's still the case even while you're in the middle of zooming out. So if you zoom out and then click on a module, it will zoom over to it. So in this case, what we want to do from here is to zoom out and then click on our lens to immediately go into it. Then we skip the whole animation of zooming out and all that. However, there's a little bit of a caveat. If you spam click where it would be as you're zooming out. Oh, okay, see I'm hitting the glitch where it won't let me zoom out. There we go. If you spam click it, you end up clicking above here and then down here, and it just doesn't want to go in. So while you're doing this transition, you want to click once only on the lens itself, and you're good to go. That is a lesson that has cost me many runs. Okay, so for this, oh my god, I understand. Sometimes the tutorials are a little aggressive. So for this, we want to we need to move the black to where the red is, which we can't do in one swipe. So we just drop it in one of these squares because the white has to go to 6. So we want to drop the white at 6, red at 3, then black over to 9. We want to spam click here and then scroll out. So we'll immediately come back out. And then while this drawer is rotating to give us the music key, we have dead time where we're doing nothing. So that is a good opportunity to prime our knobs for the next position. So our next position will be black on 3, red on 9, and white on 11. So in the time it takes for this to rotate, I can't get all of the pieces over there, but I can usually get black over here somewhere, and then white up to 11, and then that's just enough time for the music key to be done and able to be grabbed. So this is generally what it looks like when I'm at that point. I zoom out, and as I explained in chapter 1, you want to prime your items while you're zooming out. I'll give it a solid example of why you do that. I'm zooming out, now I'm trying to scroll. There, see? You can't move the cube until the animation is fully done, like right there. So I'll show it again. Can't move, can't move, can't move. Can move. You got nothing else to do. Might as well prime your items. So I'm going to move over here to the music. We don't have to zoom in before we use the music key. We can use it out here. Then it'll zoom in. You can, or no, I don't think you can move it while it's zooming in. So you want to wait till it's the full transitions happen. Then we want to move it in to place. So we need to play AGAB, CDEG, EDEC, I guess EDEC, and BAGA. So we want A, G, A, B. Then you have to play these in order. So A, G, A, B, then C, D, E, G, E, D, E, C, and then BAGA, B, A, G, A. That'll get us our tooth key. So again, we want to prime that as we are zooming out. We'll try our 180 spin over to the tooth. Wow, so beautiful. So again, with the other one, you can click it without having to zoom into it first, and that will zoom you in while putting the item in. You basically have to wait until it's fully zoomed before you can even rotate, and even then, like, how you do it matters. Like, see, I'm clicking and I'm holding. What's going on? It's because this key is so weird. Like, look at this. Why is that? Why is me moving up, rotating it right? So just to save my own sanity, I always click up here and then move it down here, and that should rotate it fine. But any other movement is so weird, and I don't understand why. So once we've done that, our next goal is to go back to our lens sliders. We have half of our next position set up, so we want to move red over to 9, black to 3, and then we want to click, and once the bones start going, we zoom out. So this is going to be rotating again, so we have time to prime our lens. So we want our black on, what is this, 5, red up 1. I just count usually. It's black down 2, red up 1, white over 3. So you can do that in any order, whatever feels more comfortable. So this will be our next position. You can usually do it in time before you're able to interact with the nut driver. So again, we're going to prime it as we zoom out there. Obviously don't wait until all the way. So an issue with this is if you click on a nut to zoom in, it's going to mess up the camera. Like I'll show you there. See, we're not in the nut driver position. So if you prime it, you want to click on the middle of the panel to zoom in, and then as it's doing it, then click on the nut with the nut driver. And you should zoom in fine. So we're going to rotate this, all of them. I guess I could mention it, but sometimes even if you do all of it, like you'll hit the end and it'll just bounce off and it won't quite turn properly. So sometimes you'll just like get to the point you're like, oh, I'm hitting the end, why isn't it coming off? And it's because it hates you. So I just constantly go it. Even if it's bounced off the end, nah man, just keep rotating until it's fully off. So once we're here, we're at the gear part. There's going to be a gear panel to our above us and to the left. I'll just zoom out. So the first gear panel's here. However, this act of zooming out and all that, like for the most part, zooming into this little knob doesn't work until you're fully zoomed out. I've had it sometimes where it does work, but either way, we can circumvent that by moving up to this panel and then clicking up here where the panel would be, near the top left, and that'll get us over to this quicker than having to zoom out and all the way. So that's our first gear. We prime that as we zoom out because we're going to be using it down here once we've gotten all three. So unfortunately we have to zoom out and move over here for this one. Zoom in, grab it, and this another case of we don't have to zoom out for this one. We can just click near the blood thing, and then we can click for this gear as well. Now if you just spam click, you're going to move the camera over there, which is fine. It's not going to really kill any time. So once we get our gears, we want to place at least the first one while we're out here, and then we can usually place most of them before we fully zoom in. So in base game, you can rotate this 2 full rotations, and then it'll automatically pull you out. But you only need to rotate it past where it starts, about here. So rotate it to about here and then drop it, and it'll count as a second rotation for our voodoo doll, which we then want to click 3 times, grab the hook, prime it, drop it. So for this, once the hook starts to go into, like right there, you can just let go and it'll finish off the sequence. Can't zoom out until it's fully done though. We can ignore that B, obviously. And then once our ear is up in there, we come back to our primed lens. So once a lens is primed, you just spam click any of the knobs. It'll get you in here. So same thing. While this is rotating, we want to prime our blood, which I just remember because it's this everyone 3, 1 space away, black on 6 type of pattern. It's not that. This is one of the easier ones to remember. That is. So we want to grab our valve and go over to the blood, and this is the main skip of chapter 2. We don't have to do any of the blood sequence. We just need to pull this knob and then ignore all the rest. So another note about this knob is it will only activate, even if you fully pulled it down, it will only activate once you release it. So if you just flick down and let go, and it's about halfway, it'll fall the rest of the way down. So it may seem like it's not activating properly because it's like you pulled it down and it's not going. You just need to release. So flick down and go. So now we come back to our lens. We've primed it from before. So again, we just click on something to go into it. Zoom out, and then while that's rotating, we're going to prime it again. So it's white on 6, black 1 over here. And I remember this pattern because it's just like an arrow. So red up here, black down here. Both of them are 1 away from 12 and 6, and then white on 3. That's how I remember that pattern. So that'll be our last pattern we need to prime. We're going to grab our hex key, So if you click, I guess you can't do it while the hex key's already been grabbed, but if you click in the wrong spot for the hex key, you'll actually move the camera over there and then have to click again. So I found that if you click probably about here, it picks up the hex key fine without screen transitioning over to there. So we're going to zoom out, prime our hex key, do a 180, drop her. We don't need to look at this at all. We can just zoom out once it goes, and then we come back here. So we can't actually move on with the game until we've done our, until we do another XYZ code. So this one is 3XY21Z. So again, as with the first code, you don't want to spam click when you're transitioning to the lens. You just want to zoom out and then click the lens once to go down to it. You'll notice that we have a B buzzing his face off over here. We don't need to open that panel at all to let him out. He will automatically leave as soon as we leave this lens area. So now that since our lens are primed, we just click on any one of the knobs, click on Albert to get him out, and then spam click over here to get our voodoo needle. We want to zoom out and prime our needle. See, he pops out and he's good to go. So once our needle's primed, we do a 180, drop it into the eyeball, grab our white gem, prime it because we're going to be placing it first. Come over here, we want to do 351, but I usually drop the middle one first. Grab a red gem, do another 180. So we need to, by the time you do all of that, the B should be back here. So we want to trigger him and then click down here just above where the piano is to move down to the piano. And then I guess I have to explain because I need to go slow. So once we click on the B, these three jars, rotatey bits, whatever, they become active. So even though you can't see the little statuette, it is here, and if you click where the gem would go, it will place it. So you can see right here, I can't, but if I click on the B, once it starts to rotate, there we go. See, I dropped the red one as well. So you can complete the game quicker just by knowing that you don't have to wait for them to fully rotate. So after we click the B, but we wouldn't drop the white and red, we would take the time to move down to our piano. We want to hit F, G, D, C, and then click the gold. So you can move back up here by clicking on certain spots, but for some reason in windowed mode that is harder. So I just zoom out and then click it, and it's about the same time anyway. So at this point we would normally have the white still. There we go. We'd still have the white selected. So this would still be rotating if we did it fast enough. So we would click on that while it's still rotating that, and so on. And then we have a whole bunch of time with nothing to do. So of course we play the piano because it's still active for some reason. B A G A B A G A C D E G. Oh, there we go. So for this cube, once the animation right there, the animation stopped, I do a 2 count. So I go 1, 2, and then I click and hold. But if you can see it, it's right when this square starts to fade in. So you'll just like even the slightest fading in. If you can see it, that's when you click and hold. So like I said, I do a 1, 2. So once the animation stops, it's fully stopped. He's holding the cube. I go 1, 2, hold, and that works out best for when it starts to fade. So again, with the other stuff, you don't have to. You just gotta click and hold. Doesn't matter where you move your mouse. And that's the game. There will be 1 minute and 22 seconds of just the cutscene and the ending credit stuff before you can call time. And I really hate that you have to do that. You have to sit and wait. But it's a nice little calm down, I guess. If you've done a really good run, just calm down. You're fine. You can just move your mouse around, faff about. So yeah, it's actually like 1:20 1-ish in the past for the ending cutscene, and then 120, like high 122 for the future. So I just call it 122. So if I have a time of, I don't know, 7:43, then I'm just like, okay, it's gonna be 9:05, right? That's 122. So yeah, for this, there's no stretch. It's just like the start. Click yes, and then you just click this arrow fucking 5 times or so. You'll know you're done when they have their hands up, and then tree. So this would be the last click. For the credits, to scroll faster, the one last little trick, you want to click and hold, and that'll cause the logo to appear quicker. And you call time when the logo is visible. So time would be now. See, if you don't hold that, see it's slower. So you want to click and hold. And that's it for the past. So we'll move on to the future now. So we're back to the menu for the future, as I went over at the beginning, but we'll go over again. The cubicle device text displays much quicker if you are in Simplified Chinese, which is the top left one here. So you generally want to play there. We'll go over the positions of resetting. So resetting in the menu, so you don't get lost, is here. It is the second option up. If you do get lost, remember just underneath the audio bars is how you switch language back to English if you need to, and that way you can find it. But if you need to reset in the game itself, like a full reset, it'll be the bottom option. If you need to reset a chapter, it'll be under help here. It'll be the second option, and then this will be reset chapter. If I'm in the menu, it just resets it back to the title anyway. So that'll be where chapter 1 or 2 is if you need to practice that chapter over and over again without going through the intro. So we're going to start here. We can skip the introduction information by clicking on the top left there. We're going to choose the future and go through 22 seconds of unskippable menus, because that's fun. As I did explain in the intro, B is always faster than butterfly, so you always want to play with that. Also with the past, anytime chapter 1, chapter 2 of the past or the future, you want to spam click to get the click to continue message to go away quicker. It is faster that way. So before we do anything, we're going to go over tech a bit. So if you are in a menu, or sorry, a subscreen, if you're in a subscreen, you don't have to click the down arrow to leave the subscreen. You can just scroll your mouse wheel down. And that's true for multiple subscreens. It'll just go back one of them at a time. There. So it is quicker to do that than to move your mouse all the way down to the arrow and then click it. Another thing is if you have 2 monitors, your mouse is not captured by the game, so you can continue scrolling after you've left the screen. So it makes it much easier to do full 180 rotations or even full 270-degree rotations that way. That's probably about it for movement tech, so let's get started. So we have about 8 seconds of doing nothing while it loads. We're going to spam click past 3 menus. 1, 2, and 3. And then here we need to put in 1926. Obviously the fastest way to do that is to go left 1, down 4 to 6, left again, and then up 2 to 2, and then hit enter. So before we, actually I can confirm that screen. Before we confirm this, I need to explain what we're going to be doing next. So once we enter here, we're going to get a long loading screen of the bee buzzing around. So we're going to take advantage of the time we have to come over here and prime our knobs This is the pattern you need for the yellow floppy disk, so I just leave that one up so I don't have to click it once, but I just spam clicking it works as well when we're at that part. So we're going to come here, we're going to prime these knobs, and then we're going to listen for an audio cue. So at the end of the buzzing, you'll hear a pop and then a fizzle. So after the pop, we would normally be pulled out and then shown that the matches have fallen. So we need to transition right after the pop. So you'll hear the pop, and then you want to click over here and move the camera down and right so that it's easier to see over here. And that will prime us for a quick match or a quick switch grab for the matches. It's like normally when the matches fall, you'll have to zoom into them over here. Actually, now that I explained that, actually I'll show you. So I'm going to confirm, zoom out, come over here, prime our knobs, listen for the pop, right there, and then come over here, and then our matches fall. So normally you would zoom into here, all the zooming time, you drag the matches out and get the switch. If we are in this screen, and we are, well, I mean, you can probably, you might be able to do it from here, but it's easier if you move the camera down. These matches will pull out from here, so we can just move to the right, or if you don't have a second monitor, you can move up and right, but you do need to move out to pull the matches matchbox open, and then click to grab the switch. Then from here, because we're in that screen, we don't have to come over here, click on this, wait for the screen transition to actually drop it. If we are here, we can grab our switch, move over here, drop it immediately, and flick it. So it saves a whole bunch of time by grabbing that early. So for this flip puzzle, the bottom left flip here is completed first and able to be flipped again. So we want to start down here in the bottom left. The pattern will be 5 bottom left, 5 top left, 1 top right, and 3 bottom right. I do it in that order because I can count 5, 5, 1, 3 easier than, I don't know, it's just my brain works differently. Plus the top left one, if you do the 5 and the bottom left quick enough, the top left one is ready to be clicked again first. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are on the crow. That is what we want. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We want the house up here. 1 for the bee, and then 3 for Rose and his daughter. Albert and his daughter. So once we do that, we want to zoom out and head over to the battery sliders. We want 152. Don't do this. This is bad. This is reset. We want to move over to 2. Grab our battery. Now we're going to do a quick vent place and key grab. So from here, we don't want to be here. We want to be side on above so that our camera takes longer to zoom in, which is what we want, so we have enough time. But if you have the battery selected and you click where the battery goes, it will place it and then zoom in. So while it's zooming in, we want to click on this paper down here, which will zoom us into the paper. And then the vent will start and the paper will fly off. Then the key will be near the top of the paper area where we transition to. We don't need the slide. There'll be a slide and a key under there. You can sometimes grab the key while it's flipping out. So I just like to spam click where the key goes and grab it as soon as possible. So let's do that in action. So again, we're going to do battery, click here, grab key as it's trying to flip. Aha! Grabbed it mid-flip. That's optimum. Again, we don't need the slide at all. And from here, we don't need to zoom out. We can grab the key and use it where the lens is. And when we do that, we're going to immediately move over to the ventilation panel by clicking it afterwards. So drop key in the lens, move over to the panel, click on the panel so you zoom into the panel. That will both move the camera faster, because it's faster to move to the vent from here than it is to move into the lens puzzle. And we can access the lens puzzle from the vent panel keep saying puzzle and panel interchangeably. You understand what I mean. So, and then it sets us up for the lens skip. Yes, there we go. Okay, so again, click key onto panel, and then immediately click on, or sorry, on the lens panel, and then immediately click on the vent panel. See, now we're in the vent panel, and we immediately are good to go for the key. We want to rotate her up, let it come out, wait about a second before these are interactable. And so we're going to do a lens skip. Normally, if you were to do the lens puzzle, did my brain turn off? What did I do? Oh, right. I was trying to do the second one. The first one is the cross, right? So thermostat down, cross to the right. You don't need to move that at all. And then the arrow left. So normally you get zoomed in here and shown a pattern. You have to do the first 2 lens puzzles in order for the yellow floppy disk to be available. So instead of that, let's just put these back. We can skip that whole sequence, like zooming in, because it has to fully zoom in, and then you can scroll out and do the next one. So we can skip that by just moving them from the ventilation panel, and as it's trying to zoom in, we click on the ventilation panel again to cancel the zoom. So we're going to move this down here, this here, and then click on the vent panel. See, it counted the puzzle, but it didn't zoom us in. So now we do the next one. This now moves left 1, and then up 1, and then this one goes down 2? Question mark? No, it goes up 2. It's so automatic that I just forget the actual mechanics of it. Okay, so this one goes up 2. Once we drop it, click on the vent panel, and we're done that. So we skip the entire zooming in. I'm going to come back out here. Go to our primed knobs. Just click that. You can spam click it until this starts to open. Grab our floppy disk, and come back here. So this would normally start the blood, bone, and flesh stuff. Since we should always be doing something, whoops, sometimes when you zoom out, the cursor gets all messy. Anyway, while that's doing that whole thing, we want to come back to the back of the panel, or back of the device, and open up our cassette player. And that'll prime us for the cassette that we'll be getting soon. So yeah, open the panel, come back, and then by the time you come back, you'll have like a couple seconds before this screen actually fully appears. So what we want to do here is go enter to the next screen, and then just spam up while this is loading to get to I, because we want to do IDAV for Ida Vanderboom. If you play B, that's what's close to his heart. Rose Vanderboom is in the butterfly. I don't know why I'm mentioning that. Anyway, so we want to get to I, so we want to just spam click until we get to I. Then that's when my brain takes over, and I do right up 3, right 2, down 5, and that'll get us there. So yeah, I just, like I said, I spam up to I. It's 8 if you move. Normally it's 8 if you can count out 8, but I just spam it. Get to I, then right 3, right 2. Sorry, right 1, down, or right 1, up 3, right 2, down 5. It's so weird, like trying to explain this stuff when it's ingrained into your brain. It's just, you forget it. It's just an automatic movement at that point. Anyway, Ida Vanderboom. Once we enter this, we're going to do the bone, flesh, and blood things. There'll be 3 options here. So we just want to immediately go into bone, so we just spam enter. And then while the bone loads, okay, I'm going to wait till flesh to explain it. That loading bar can be skipped if we do specific inputs. I should have done it on bone there, but let's do it on flesh. So I'll explain it before I actually attempt to do it. The loading bar will go bloop, 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 bloop. It takes about 7 seconds to do that, because, of course, the bane of all speedrunning. Once it gets to 100%, the bar completely disappears, and then you have 50 frames, of which the last 20 frames, so the last 1/3 of a second, you can click right or left on the arrows to change the position. See, that's bone, that's flesh, that's blood. So if we click right in the last 20 frames after it's hit 100%, we will switch over to blood instead. So that has a side effect of, let's go back into Bone to show, there's no loading bar after it's done the loading bar. So Bone is now primed and ready. You can immediately go into it and confirm it, right? Let me just back out so it's consistent. So if we wait for the loading bar for Bone and then switch over to Flesh, we don't have to wait for the loading bar for Flesh. It will allow us to confirm Flesh. And then when we go back to Bone, there's no loading bar. So it ends up skipping a loading bar. So we're going to try it from Flesh to Blood. So again, the last 20 frames of the 100% is the sweet spot where you want to click to the right. If you're on Bone, you could click twice, and that would just get you over to Blood if you mess up the timing. But clicking once in the last 20 frames is enough. So let's go into Flesh, and we're going to click. I usually do it like a 1 count. So 1, and then there. Yeah, see, this icon is now Blood. We are in the Blood panel. So when we confirm Blood, we don't have to then do the Blood loading bar, unless we mess up at this point and go into it now, which we're not going to. So generally you do this on Bone, and then you would go over to Flesh and skip the loading bar for Flesh, and then do Blood normally. You'd wait for that loading bar, and then go back to Bone, which there will be no loading bar. So overall, a complicated setup, but it saves about 5 seconds when done optimally. So let's finish the rest of these. So if you do it at Bone, you will be here when you're out. So you can just hit left and enter here instead of right enter if you were to do it manually. So this needs to be 1984. So it's basically reverse from our 1926. So we need to go left and then up 4 instead of down 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then left and then down 2 instead of up 2. It's basically reverse, like I just said. And then as we're starting that, we want to zoom out and move our camera about here. That will prevent us from accidentally zooming into this panel and allow us to grab the cassette from this point. So we do that because, yeah, like I said, always be doing something. So if you zoom out here, you're waiting for the cassette to pop out anyway. You're actually saving time because you don't have to click the cassette and then zoom out. So about here, grab the cassette. We don't need to select it yet. We just need to move to the back, zoom in, and while we're zooming in, we can put the cassette in. But you can't close the panel until it's fully zoomed in. So you're good to set it up here. We want to close the panel as soon as we get in, and then play. So we want to set our camera up to about here. That will allow us to grab the screwdriver. As soon as it finishes rotating and it's about here, you'll be able to grab it. So you just like spam click around here and you'll pick it up. And then we want to use it on the screw to immediately zoom in. Unlike the past screws, or I guess those were nuts, this one will actually zoom in fine if you just click on the screw from out here. So I like to do the top left screw first so that the camera moves properly. If you do, I used to do the top right because it was there and I didn't know any better. And the camera will zoom in and then rotate over to the screwdriver, so it takes more time. So if you do the top left, it's just a faster. And just like the past chapter 2, sometimes you'll get to the end and you swear it's done, but it's still bouncing back and forth, and it won't register. So I've lost runs to that or to this screwdriver as well. Super fun. So just to make sure I constantly rotate it. And the order doesn't matter once you're zoomed in here. I just do it this way because I am used to doing it this way. So we want the checker / chess piece. So as soon as the screen zooms in and you're here on this part, you have about half a second before you can actually click on the checker piece. It's chess, whatever. So I do just give it a beat. I'm just like, okay, here, done, now go. And our pattern is we want A6, A3, F3, whatever that is, D1, and then D6. So for this, this is always a nuisance. you'll notice, okay, so when I pick up the piece, it zooms, it moves itself to the perceived center on my cursor. So that may be fine down here, but as we move it up here, see it's way off to the upper left. So for certain spots like up there, that's fine to drop it up there. So if you just like floop and drop it, you're fine. But other spots where you have to stop midway, it might be a little off. So like that's, you're like, oh, drop it there, but no. Okay, well, I mean, drop it there, it's probably fine, yeah. But other places like where you swear it's mostly on the square, it doesn't count. And that is because it goes by your actual cursor position rather than the position of the checker piece. So if you move like right here, it's your cursor's in the middle of the square, it's fine. So you want to just ignore the chess piece itself and drop it in middle. So yeah, just pay attention to your cursor. So we'll do that again. We're going to floop it up here. And then we want A3, whatever that is, there, and then finally we're done. Grab our red floppy disk, prime it by zooming out, like I've told you before. Come down here, pop the yellow, put the red in. So while this is going on, we want to come over here, and this mouse, which would be here normally, while we're doing the bone and flesh puzzles, if we were doing it casually, is now there, blocking our path. So since we should always be doing something, while that's loading, I come out here, I click on the mouse to get him away. Oh my god, I didn't mean to do that. So we need to confirm this, and then we don't need to confirm the second one. Just zooming out will confirm it automatically. So that's usually what I do. Then the puzzle order I do, just because I'm so used to rotating the cube to the right, is I come over here and I do the knobs. You can grab that fuse while the door is still moving. And it does speed it up a bit. For this one, however, it's 315, I guess. I don't usually count 5 as max, but I usually say max in my brain. But yeah, 315. For this one, the bottom and the top of this don't pick up the fuse. So if you spam click down here, no fuse. Spam click up here, no fuse. You have to click the middle bit. So I've lost a couple runs where I'm just like, give me the fuse, and it just won't. So I got to move up, click the middle. You know, the nuances of this game. By the way, I usually prime a fuse while I'm transitioning to here, just so that it's ready to go for when we get back to the front. We need to do the lens puzzle. So you might be asking yourself, well, we can skip the lens puzzle if we're over here before, so why can't we just do it here again? And it's because it will pull you in and do it regardless, which is weird that it uses a different way to pull you in. So I'll show you that here. Well, actually, I'll tell you here. If you drop the lens, it would usually pull you in. If you're over here, it will also pull you in, even though I'm clicking. Once we're in here, I'm going to click on our boy's soul a couple times, grab our fuse, and head back to the front. So, oh, okay, I just did it. You can drop the fuse in one of these slots, any one of them works, without having to zoom into it first, which is why I primed one of our fuses. So you can actually drop all 3 fuses while you're zooming in. So if you're good enough, you can do that. However, if you drop all 3 fuses while the camera's still zooming in, scrolling down, actually, it won't work now. Scrolling down doesn't work for some reason. So just as a backup, just like in this screen only, I click on the back arrow just to make sure that I don't get like soft lock there. So we want to pull our lever over here. Levers behave differently in chapter 2 and this one. This one you have to pull it all the way down, and it activates when it's down. For the past chapter 2, you just flick it down and it's good. So I always mess that up. So you want to pull this lever all the way down, and it'll activate once it's at the bottom. So going back here, it might be easier if you're halfway. Yeah. So when you zoom into here, we need to go over and then hit enter to confirm our first screen. So you can actually do that while it's zooming in. And then confirm our second screen, and we then need to push and hold down the arrow key. So a few fun things you can do. The music that usually plays during the transition can be interrupted if after, like, you'll hear the beep, beep, beep start up. If immediately you let go and click down the down button again, it'll cancel the music. And then another fun thing you can do is actually hit X to go back to the selection menu. So there's two fun things you can do while you're transitioning to Chapter 2. So let's see if I can do them both. Yeah, nope, I didn't get the music. That gets cancelled if you push down fast enough, but it did go back. Anyway, our first thing we need to do is over here in the bottom right for Chapter 2, so that's usually where I place my mouse. And now we will move on to Chapter 2. So just like in the other chapters, you want to spam click past the click to continue button so that it goes by faster. And now we get to do the 2D section of the future. So you are stuck on the screen until you look at the papers in the bottom right, which is why I put my cursor over there. So our first goal is to click and then immediately scroll out. Grab our matches while we're waiting for the cube to pop out. Then grab our cube and we can finally leave. So a big thing is that you do not need to place the black cube in here at all. But it will cause issues later in the level if you don't. So we have to place it in there at some point. We can just skip placing it there, doing our intro sequence and all the goopy bits. We can skip all of that. So before we actually do anything, I'm going to go over the movement stuff that I went over back in the past, Chapter 1. Well, I'll get over it again. You can zoom out with the scrolling down. You don't have to click the back button. As well as for the 2D sections, you can swipe, I guess would be the correct word, to the next screen by clicking and dragging. So you can do that during certain spots, like at the end of this chapter. You need to put masks on Albert and constantly look at the puzzles and go back and forth with that. So you can actually do that. You can transition back from this screen back to Albert quicker if you just swipe away. That's the only place that I've used it, but I'm sure there's other places you can use it. So knowing that is good. However, it only works if you start to swipe on an area that isn't interactable. So there, I can't swipe. I'm holding down the button right now because the chair is interactable. Same with the mirror here. I can't swipe because you can zoom into the mirror. So it's only best to do it in certain areas. Like this gap over here beside the chalkboard is, your optimal place to do it for the strategy I use at the end. Just flick away. Yeah, so we'll start the actual thing. Once we leave this screen, since we don't need to do the black cube, we're going to immediately go and get the chalk. So here at the vacuum, we need to do 1, nothing, 2, nothing, 1, 1. So usually you'd click and slide these to whatever you need to do, but you can just click them once and they will move position. So if you were to click it at the end, it would go back to the beginning. So if you double click, it actually clicks it twice. Like if I do it slow, you can see that, prove me wrong, do it there, slow, you can see that double click does nothing, but if you double click quick enough, you're actually still clicking on the cube before it has time to move over. So all of that tech explanation just so you can click this twice instead of having to drag it over. So click 1, click twice there, and then 1, 1 at the bottom. Grab our chalk, Head over to the chalkboard. Again, you want to prime items as you're doing screen transitions because you have a brief moment before you can do a second screen transition, so you might as well use that time to prime your items. We're going to start the drawing sequence on the chalkboard, and then we have to wait before we can circle anything. So again, always be doing something. I'm going to start it, leave, come grab the scalpel, which is in the bottom drawer, and then go back up to circle. We want to do the coffin, the chicken leg, the blood, the soul, the clock, the bone, the eyes, and the cube. Is it the eyes? Oh my god, it's muscle memory at this point. I don't remember. Yeah, it's the eyes. Then we want to click on the hammer, and we can actually pick it up while it's falling. So after you click it, you want to spam click while moving down to grab it. Also, yeah, a side effect of not doing the black cube first is we will constantly be beeping and flashing red until the end. But, I mean, it's a minor inconvenience for saving time. Yeah, so we want to go 2 screens to the right to break open our tooth and then get annoyed because this part is annoying. So you can grab the top row here quickly by moving the vacuum underneath and dragging across. But then the bottom row, I play in windowed, so what I try to do in windowed is I move down and left just so it stays on the bottom. But you'll see that if I move, yeah, the vacuum doesn't move with my cursor, it moves till its stopping point, and then my cursor repositions it. So that is an issue if we're dragging along the bottom, because if you move up slightly, you're off from the bottom. So that's why in windowed I drag down and left, so that we're constantly bumping up against the ground. So yeah, this I hate this tooth part with passion. Let's see how we do in full screen. Yeah, see, we missed 3. So I usually do that and then pick up whatever we missed and then sigh in anger. I have been able to do it in one swipe quickly before, but any other time I try it, it doesn't want to. So now we got to go back to the machine, click our tooth and our button. You have to click both of these, otherwise it doesn't. Also, yeah, you can see there is no Albert soul here. It just places it right on nothing because we didn't put the black cube in there. So yeah, we want to click both of those buttons and then zoom out to get the mouse here. So if we just spam click where the mouse would be, we'll scare the mouse out and grab the key right away. See, we don't have to wait for any of that. Also, we don't have to wait for him to run across. We can immediately do it. Zoom out and use the key. So in this lock, the right locker only, if you transition to it, let's just transition it, by clicking on it, like normal, with the key, anywhere on it, it'll put the key in the slot. But the left locker, when we do that later, it won't. So for this specific locker, as you're transitioning screens, you can grab the key, place it, and you'll be ready to rotate. So the right locker rotates to the right, and the left locker, not that we have it, will rotate to the left. Just something to make a mental note of. So we're going to open up our locker, immediately go to the computer, and the dreaded part of Chapter 2 is all of the memorization you need to do. Sorry, Chapter 2 of the future, all of the memorization you need to do. It's so much, but playing it over and over again, you're good. Eventually, I believe in you. You can memorize this. So we immediately want to, it doesn't matter what button you push at first, so if you just spam click everywhere while you're moving to the down key, that's fine. We want to hit down on this screen, spam it until it disappears, and then as soon as these dots appear, you don't have to wait for the weird transition, you don't have to wait for this to flash. As soon as the dots appear, we can enter our code, and that's left, up, down, left, up. And then as soon as you enter that code, you can then immediately start to move the hook without having this screen up. So you can blind move about maybe like 10 moves before it even gets here. So our path we want over here. Oh geez, do I have the memory? Yeah, up here, here, and here. So we need to go right 3, down 3, right 2, up to, and then by this time usually the screen starts to transition. So then we want to finish it up by going right and then down 2 to get the first one. It is quicker to fail and then go back to the first part than to move your way out of the thing. Well, I failed anyway, but yeah. So fail just by, I'll just do that again. So fail by hitting down again, and then you'll just and then you want to do 3 right, down, left, and then you want to go straight down to here. So 4 down, and then right to here, down, right, and then up twice. And it's technically, as in it's less button presses to move from here back to the third one, but in practice, spamming a button 3 times, then a button once, and then a button 5 times is quicker for me than it is to move. So we go like that. If we go down, then we're gonna go left, then we're gonna go up, then we're gonna go here. That takes a lot of time for my brain, I guess. So I usually fail it by going up there, and then I go back 1, 2, 3, down, left 1, and then down 5 or 5. We're at the bottom, and then it's left 2, up 4 to this part, and then right, and then just spam down. Well, so once we're done, we don't need to watch any of this. We just want to immediately zoom out, head over to this screen. So it's come down now because we watched the screen, but this ear will come down either way on a timed event. So we have to wait for it if we are fast. So that's why we didn't pick up the water glass or anything, because we can do that while we're here. So on this screen, the ear probably won't be down when you come down here quick enough. We want to grab our coffee, and then pick up our water glass and fill it at the sink. And then prime our scalpel. The ear will be down by the time you do those 2 things. Usually, I've been quick enough that it's not been down, and if that's the case, you just gotta wait like a brief moment as it's falling. We want our flesh. We're gonna come back and brew our coffee. And one thing to note is be careful with your mouse movements here. If you are slightly left of the coffee, hey, guess what? You're now at the locker. So it's better to undershoot it and then get into the coffee than to overshoot it and accidentally click over here. So yes, get our coffee. And now comes the fun part of the run. Memorizing all of the flesh patterns. And oh boy, I spent a good 2 to 4 hours. I legit wasn't counting, but I'm guessing it was a while. Just making sure I knew what was next by doing it over and over and over again. So I'm going to go over them generally, what they are. So we want to place our flesh, coffee, water, and one quick thing that doesn't save too much time, but if you prime the matches and then click on the Bunsen burner knob, it will light it at the same time as turning it on instead of having to turn it on and then set it up. So our first one is easy. It's always acid, water, hot coffee. So we drop acid, water, hot coffee. Now square, I know that the third one is hot water. I only try to memorize the third one because the first 2 are the same for all of it. So the second phase is always water, coffee. And then square is hot water. So we do water, coffee, and then memorization, hot water. And then for the, we're on 3? Yeah, we're on 3. Did I say 3 for the last one? For the second one, it's water, coffee. Anyway, for the third one, it's always hot acid, water, and then the third thing. So for smooth, it's coffee. So we'll do hot acid, water, coffee. And then for the last one, it's always acid, water, and then the third thing. So we want acid, water. For teeth, it's easy. It's acid, water, water. So I can do acid and then drop water twice. But I'm not going to do that because I'm going to show you how to practice this. So it is random every time you do it, not just every time you play it. Every time you do it, it's random. So if you want to practice this, you can just do just drop acid until you're back to step 1, and then it's acid, water, hot coffee. For circle, it is water, coffee, acid. For hair, it's hot water, so we want hot acid, water, hot water. And then for nose, it is hot acid, so it'd be acid, water, hot acid. So we're just going to drop it back. So you can just make sure you're at nothing up here. Just do it again over and over until you get it. There is a guide. I've made a guide on Steam. I probably will, with this video, link to some practice sheets, and they'll have the thing on it. Since I played in windowed mode, there's this gaping area. Gaping is probably not a good word to use there. There's this large area around the window. So my idea was, might as well put a cheat sheet there, basically. So there'll be copies of those in the description of this, as well as on the speedrun.com guide section. I'll put it there as well, and maybe even the Rusty Lake Discord. I don't know where I'm going to put them. But yeah, so it'll have all of these for you to practice with in windowed mode, obviously, or you could put it on a second monitor. So yeah, we'll do it proper. Acid, water, hot coffee. Again, it's always that first. Square is hot water, so I don't need to memorize the first two. It's just water, coffee, and then hot water. Pimples is hot acid, so we want hot acid, water, hot acid. I'm sorry, what? Did I miss the drop? Did I? I gotta do that again. My brain turned off, I guess. Okay, water, coffee, hot water. Did I not? I didn't do hot acid, did I? Hot acid, water, hot acid? Whatever happened there. I'll have to look at the footage. Anyway, so we can practice that up until this point. If you just remember that eyeball is hot water, so teeth is just double water, so it'd be acid, water, water, and then the nose is hot acid, so it'd be acid, water, hot acid. Remember those, and then practice the 3 steps up to then until you get it and you're good. So yeah, what did I say? Acid, water, hot water. So after all that explanation, we're going to drag our flesh and 2 transitions, not 1. We're going to pop this, and then we need to go do the B in the vent. So for this, you need to wait till this is done animating basically before the B will go. So we don't have to wait for it to move to the bottom or to the middle of the screen. You can just click where it would be, and it'll be good. So you just click, click, and it'll start going. You don't have to wait for it. You can just immediately screen transition. And on this screen, I'm usually spam clicking. And if I'm spam clicking in the middle, it's going to zoom in to show Albert in the vat, which I'll show in a second. So it's better to just click over here, which will also work. And again, you don't have to wait for the B. But if you're spam clicking in the middle, then you could end up on this screen and you'd be like, oh, great, this is not where I want to be, obviously. And then we want to go over to B, grab the key. And like I said, it won't actually, it won't put the key in. You have to put it in the actual hole, and it rotates to the left. We want to come down here, grab our valve, and place it in here, rotate it. So once we're in the blood pump, we want to obviously start it. And then our sequence is going to be square, the bottom right square. Then in a Tetris pattern, which is easiest to remember, is T, circle, D, I call that D, and then a T box. And then we start back in the left with the sword, and then the bed, and then yes. So it's blonk, 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 blonk. Once you get the final one, you can just zoom out and move over to the machine again. That is the, in my opinion, that is the quickest pattern. There's also the S pattern, which I used to do, which is S, sword. Oh crap! Do I even remember it anymore? S, sword, D. Oh my god. I have a guide on Steam if you really care about the other ones. I've messed around with all of them, and the box pattern is quickest for me now, just because it's less mouse movement. Yeah, so let's do that. So at this point, you don't have to wait or anything. You just zoom out and move over. So now the consequences of us not using the black box will catch up to us. So we now need to, before we even click blood and the knob, we need to place the black box back in. And the reason why is you can see this is uninteractable. And if we push the blood button, this will still be uninteractable. So we will not be able to complete the blood. So we need to put it in here, which we can then now do the code. But that causes a whole cutscene thing. You obviously don't want that. So just place the thing just to make that interactable. Then we come to our blood and back up here. Start the blood sequence, and then we want top right, bottom middle, and then I remember these by the corner, so the top left corner and then the bottom right corner, and then diagonal from top left to bottom right, and then we want the whatever this shape is, and then we're back here and we're good to go. So another thing is that we don't need Albert. We need him out of the machine, but we don't need to so we'll get him out. We don't need to click on him here in order for him to get in the suit. I forget words. I don't whatever. We don't need him to be in the suit because number one, that blocks us. We no longer have access to the box, and we then have to go through his dialogue and then look in his pocket in order to prevent that blockage. So we can actually skip that. Like I said, don't click on him here. Just click on the center twice, and then move over to our chalkboard, and we're going to enter our chalkboard, which is Gem's mask. I just remember this by everything on the edges. So cube, eyes, clock, gem, and mask. Obviously not the candle. So just like with the hammer, we can grab the key as it's falling. So click it and then just spam click and fail miserably, but you can grab it as it's falling. It doesn't matter if you circle things after the key starts wiggling, so don't worry about messing it up. Just spam click, move down to try to grab it. We're going to prime our key, come grab our 3 masks. So Albert is in front of the machine still, but also he's over here with his suit on, which is a side effect of him not moving over to get into his suit. So once we grab our 3 masks, we're going to come out and come over to Albert. We're going to do, if you grab them in proper order, then the snow mask will be up here, and then on the music and deer mask. So we're going to prime the music mask, go into him, immediately click on him, zoom out. So for the music mask to take effect, we need to be on this screen, just so that we see FGDC. So we can come over here and then click the button to transition, and then, like I said before, just slide to come back, and that gives us time to prime the deer mask, which we're going to go in, pick up the music mask and drop that on him, and it's the exact same screen. So we come back over here so we can see those, and then transition back, prime the snow mask, drop that on his face, and we do this instead of the order you might think to do it in. We do this because that way it's only 4 screen transitions to prime everything, because we need to do all 3 masks. So once we've done that, we want to go back to the machine, click the button, and release our cube, even though it's already released due to us skipping it at the beginning. So it'll be top, middle, bottom left, bottom right. You don't have to wait for anything. You can just immediately grab it. Zoom out here. Again, he's still sitting there. Albert is 2 screens left or 2 screens right, but like I said before, it's best to just stick with moving to the right, just so you can prime items while you're transitioning quicker. So I'm going to go to the right 2 times. So I'm going to explain dialogue skip. I did explain this in the past chapter 1, but in casual playthrough, you would give him the cube, right, and then he would start talking. Oh, his hands went down. I didn't even know that. He'll start talking, and then you have to sit there and wait for his dialogue to finish, and then click on him again to start a second dialogue, and then click on him again to start the third dialogue, and he's going to go through a whole bunch of dialogues. But if you zoom out, like if you scroll down to zoom out after he started talking, it counts as that dialogue finishing, and then we can click to go into him again and start his next dialogue. So that's regular dialogue skip. And then if you click while you've zoomed out, there's like a 2 to 4 frame window where you can click a second time to start the dialogue, another dialogue box. So you actually get 2 dialogue skips for the price of 1 if you click fast enough. So we're going to try to do that with him. So we're going to give him the cube. We're going to zoom out, and then we're going to spam click and try to get 2 dialog boxes. You'll know you've succeeded if when you zoom out, you'll see another dialog box floating here. So let's try that.
Give me.
So again, give him zoom out, click. So we got, that's fast dialog skip. Then we zoom back in. We got to do this like 3 times. We got the second one.
To the lake.
Ah, I missed the last one, but that's fine because it's 5 dialogues, I think. So if at this point, you can just, nope, actually it isn't. It's another one. Ah, I hate that. If you do it perfectly, you only have to zoom in and out 3 times. He should now, there we go. So after he starts saying look closely into the cube, just click the cube, and you can click anywhere on Albert, basically. Not his pants, but like anywhere up here. So don't worry about like being precise. Just immediately click and then click and hold anywhere.
Press and hold the middle of the cube for 10 seconds.
And there's no timing to this. Immediately it's available as soon as you zoom into him holding the cube. So that's the end of the future chapter 2. We'll go through the ending bit again. I'll just, in case you didn't watch the past, we'll go through it again. Once the screen starts transitioning for the cutscene, you have 1 minute and 22 seconds of just skipping the ending bit, the cutscene, and all of that. So if you have, say, like a 740, you're going to, like, the ultimate time you're probably going to get is like a 902, because 740 plus 122 is 902. So just in that ballpark, you can just kind of guess, hey, is this going to beat the world record, or is this going to beat my personal best? Just add 1 minute and 22. But yeah, for this you just want to click yes and then spam click the arrows. And then once we get to where they're holding up hand, it's 1 more. And then at this point, we want to click and hold so that the credits zoom by faster, which will get it faster, or we'll get the logo faster, and that's where time ends. So time will stop when the logo is first visible, which is now. So if you're not holding down the mouse button, it scrolls slower, and it takes a good 2 seconds or so before the logo even appears, compared to if you were clicking and holding. So that's it for the guide. I know this is going to be long, but hopefully everything's explained. If you have any other questions, just ask me. I'm open. I don't think I'll be running this anymore because I just don't have the mousing skills. Like my mousing, like being accurate and fast is just, oof, I'm old. I can't do it as good as the young people. So this guide is for someone else to take over and be awesome at this game. But yes, thank you for watching, and goodbye.